Good afternoon, class. Grammar chart, ESL Grammar 320, Unit 4, Part 4, Modals, Degrees of Necessity. Modals to express degrees of necessity. So what we're looking at here is what a modal is. They are auxiliary verbs that show speakers' attitudes towards the actions they are describing. Modals are used to talk about obligations, advice, expectations, and suggestions. The modals include can, could, shall, should, will, would, may, might, must, and had better. Okay, so necessity. So thinking of something that we need at 100%, the strongest form, must, have to, have got to. Had to also, and then as advice, something that we make or recommend, right? Had better, should, ought to, should have, ought to have, an expectation, okay? A supposed to, are to, were supposed to, were to, and a suggestion. Could, might, could have, might have, no obligation, no necessity, don't have to, didn't have to. So just looking at a couple of things here, should have and ought to have, as far as the advice. Well, first, you're going to have subject plus auxiliary verb, which are these modals, must, have to, have got to, and then a verb, okay? And then when you have should have, or when a modal plus have, so should have, ought to have, could have, might have, you're going to use the past participle, and that is to talk about an action in the past tense. So let's take a look here just to kind of give you some examples. So when we're using these modals, very grammatically very easy, right? So you're going to use subject plus modal plus verb, or past participle, depending on which modal you use. So you must, she must, they must, and then we're going to use just a verb here, base form. So to cook, she must cook, she must, they must, cooking. So these are all very common forms of verbs used, and very common to see students use all three forms of the verb cook here. But the correct form, you're not going to use the infinitive or the to plus verb, and you're not going to use the ing. Just the verb itself, no to, no ing. He must cook. And this shows, again, the modal must shows an obligation. Okay. He must cook. Have to. So this rule will be you have to call them. Same thing. He, she has to, right? Because this is going to be used in the simple present. So third person singular, has to. She has to cook. Must is going to be the same. Looking at another example here for advice, kind of want to show you the past participles. So you'll notice you had better leave early, or you should leave early. You should have left early. So of these words here, myself personally, I would use should or should have, should have. Should have is a contraction for should have, and that's fine to use in this with the past participle. But me personally, these are the words I would use. Ought to, had better, are equivalent and equal. However, I don't use the word personally ought to. Or let's just say they should, they should cook, right? They should have. So remember, past participles, oftentimes with regular verbs, are going to be ending in ed unless they are irregular verbs. They should eat. That's going to be your base form. Of course, the past tense of eat is ate, but past participle, right? An action that started in the past and continues. We use this in the perfect tense. They should have eaten, or they should have eaten, right? And so this is going to be giving advice for a past action that is already finished, but an example would be they should have eaten before going to work. Um, so what this sentence means, they, subject, are at work, but they did not eat. They should have eaten, right? So we're giving advice for an action. Although we can't change the past, we're given this advice to sort of express they would have been better off had they eaten before going to work. Okay, so again, past participle. In this case, if you don't use the verb have, right, and no past participle, this is just going to be present tense. They should eat before going to work. So it's kind of showing these two sentences next to each other here. They should eat before going to work. They have not gone to work yet. They should eat. They should have eaten before going to work. They are already at work and they didn't eat. Okay, so hopefully this helps out. Any questions, please let me know. Thank you very much.